Zette wasn't perfect. None of us are. But her heart, it was steady. It was open. She believed in people. Sometimes, even when she shouldn't have. She had this habit of showing up for others. The kind of person who gave when no one else would. Not for attention, not for praise. Just because that's who she was. So when Michael Ellis, her ex-fiancé, was sleeping in his car with nowhere to go, Zette did what she always did. She helped. Despite everything they'd been through, the fights, the breakups, the uneasy past, she opened her door. She offered him a place to stay, gave him food, peace, shelter. She made space in her life for someone who had already taken so much from her. Michael was struggling. Everyone knew it. He was battling paranoid schizophrenia. His life had become unstable, chaotic. Addiction made things worse. And when his own family couldn't or wouldn't help anymore, Zette stepped in. Again, she didn't do it out of weakness. She did it out of compassion. She didn't want him on the streets. She didn't want to see someone she once loved fall apart completely. But this time that choice cost her everything. Because on June 17, 2025, Michael Ellis killed Zette in her own home. The same home she had let him into, just to keep him off the street. So when we talk about what happened, we have to start here. With a woman who believed that helping someone in need was still worth the risk, Zette let him stay to help. And it ended with her life. Thank you to everyone who watches, stays, and cares. If this resonates with you, or you've ever stood by someone struggling, please subscribe. Let's honor those who show up, even when help fails them. That night felt off. I couldn't sleep. You know that feeling when your chest just feels heavy for no clear reason? That was me, tossing around, staring at the ceiling. I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe it was just the stress of everything lately. But my gut was loud. Then the phone rang. It was Zette's cousin. No greetings. No small talk. Just a voice full of panic. She's not answering. I've been calling her phone nonstop. This isn't like her. I sat up straight in bed. All the sleep I was trying to find disappeared. I tried to stay calm. Told her maybe Zette just needed time to cool off. Maybe she was somewhere with her phone on silent. But even as I said the words, they didn't feel true. We both knew Zette. She didn't just vanish. Not without a text. Not without checking in. Especially not when emotions were high. She always made sure someone knew she was safe, even if she needed space. I called too. Once. Twice. Straight to voicemail. Tried not to panic, but my heart was already racing. As the hours passed, the silence got louder. Her phone stayed off. Nobody had seen her. No updates. No new posts. Nothing. Then the calls started rolling in from others. Friends. Family. People asking, have you heard from her? People who didn't even talk regularly were checking in now. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just a fight. This wasn't just space. Something was wrong, really wrong. The next day, the weight of silence became too much to bear. The worry that had been simmering overnight boiled over into something raw and heavy. We woke up hoping for a message, a call, any sign from Zette. But nothing came. Not a word. Not a picture. Nothing. Just the gnawing feeling that something was terribly wrong. Friends and family began searching everywhere they could think of. Hospitals, police stations, even jails. We hoped she'd been found safe. But every place we called gave the same answer. No sign of her. We drove to the places Zette would go when she needed to clear her mind, her favorite parks, quiet streets, the local coffee shop where she used to sit and dream. Still no sign. As the day stretched on, the unease grew louder. Texts and calls poured in from all directions, some from people who hadn't talked to Zette in years. Everyone was asking the same question. Where is she? That question started to feel like an accusation, like maybe we hadn't done enough. Like maybe we should have seen the warning signs sooner. Then, slowly, the whispers started. Rumors about fights, about fear, about danger that nobody wanted to say out loud. And finally, the hardest truth hit us all. Zette was gone. Not just missing. Gone in a way that shattered the world for everyone who loved her. It was a moment none of us wanted to face. A moment when words failed and grief swallowed everything whole. We were left with nothing but questions. Questions we didn't know how to ask or answer. How did this happen? How did we miss the signs? How do you say goodbye to someone who's still here in your heart, but gone from the world? Zette and Michael's story didn't start the night she disappeared. It was years in the making, 6 years of trying, breaking up, and trying again. They met when life was simpler, or at least it seemed that way. There was love, hope, and plans for a future together. At one point, they even got engaged in 2021. But their relationship was far from easy. Volatile doesn't begin to cover it. Michael's untreated mental illness made things unpredictable. Paranoid schizophrenia brought fear, confusion, and moments no one else could understand. Addiction clouded the picture further. They broke up and got back together multiple times. Each time, they hoped things would be different. Zette believed in second chances. She believed Michael could heal, but the fights grew fiercer. The emotional toll heavier. Friends and family watched the cycle. The passionate reunions followed by painful separations. It wasn't just about love anymore. It was survival. Even after calling off their engagement, they stayed connected, sometimes living under the same roof again. Zette's kindness kept pulling her back. This wasn't a crime of passion or a sudden break. It was years of love tangled with pain, hope mixed with fear, and two people caught in a struggle neither could fully escape. Understanding their past helps us see why, despite all the warning signs, Zette kept trying, because sometimes love blinds us even when it costs everything. Looking back, the warning signs were there, loud and clear, but somehow easy to ignore. Both families tried to intervene. They saw the fights, the tension, the chaos building between Zette and Michael. They pleaded with them to get help, to take space, to stay safe. There were arguments that ended in slammed doors and tears. Police were called more than once. Michael had reportedly pulled a gun on Zette before, a moment no one could forget. But Zette kept giving chances. Maybe it was hope, maybe it was love, or maybe she believed things could change if she stayed. Both were battling their own demons: mental illness, addiction, trauma. It wasn't just a toxic relationship. It was complicated, painful, and deeply broken. Yet they were adults. Adults who could make their own choices, even when those choices were dangerous. No one could legally force them apart, and that's where the system failed them. Laws meant to protect can only do so much when people don't want help or refuse it. When fear, pride, or love keep someone in harm's way, how many times did people see the signs and say, "It's not my place," or "maybe next time"? How many small alarms go unheard before tragedy strikes? This wasn't a sudden storm. It was a slow, painful buildup of ignored cries and missed chances. Now, all that's left is the question: how many warnings do we ignore before it's too late? That night, everything changed, and no one really knows all the details. What led to the final moment? The exact words said. The fights that happened just hours before. But what we do know is this: inside Zette's apartment, tension was thick. Two people, tangled in pain, fear, and history. Michael Ellis, battling his demons, reached a breaking point. Gunfire shattered the quiet. Zette was shot. The woman who had opened her door, who had tried to help, was suddenly a victim of violence in the place she called home. Another man was shot too, someone caught in the chaos. Luckily, he survived. But what happened next was something even more shocking. Will didn't just run away. He sent graphic photos of Zette's body to her family. A cruel final act. A message that went beyond the pain of loss. And then he fled. Hours later, police found him. They arrested him, charged him with murder and unlawful disclosure of intimate images. The kind of betrayal that cuts deep. It's hard to imagine the heartbreak on both sides. Zette's family grappling with the shock and loss. Michael's family struggling with the horror of what he did. It's a night that changed everything. A night that should never have happened, but it did. And now, all that remains is the question: when someone you trust becomes unpredictable, how do you know when it's safe to stay? The police moved fast. Hours after the shooting, Michael Ellis was arrested, charged with murder and unlawful sharing of graphic images. The weight of those charges was crushing for everyone involved. Zette's family was shattered. They couldn't believe the kindness they knew, her warmth, her generosity ended like this. The woman who had always shown up for others was now gone. Will's family was broken too, but in a different way. They faced the horror of what their loved one had done, while also wrestling with the reality of his untreated mental illness and addiction. A mix of grief, confusion, and shame. Aside, people talked. They judged. They whispered theories. But behind closed doors, both families had been pleading for change for years, trying to get help, trying to stop the cycle of pain and violence. The truth is messy. The lines between victim and perpetrator blur when mental illness and trauma mix with violence. Both families lost someone that night. Both are left picking up pieces. What hurts most is the silence before it all happened, the missed chances, the ignored cries for help. The world saw headlines and news reports, but those close to the story knew the depth of the struggle behind closed doors, and it leaves us wondering who failed more, the act of violence or the silence that let it happen. Zette's story isn't just about one tragic night. It's about a bigger problem that too many people face. What happens when mental illness, addiction, and domestic violence collide, and the system isn't built to handle it? Michael Ellis lived with paranoid schizophrenia. His illness made life unpredictable and chaotic. Add addiction into the mix, and things spiral fast. But mental health support, it was almost nowhere to be found. Zette's family and Michael's family both tried. They reached out. They pleaded. They looked for help that could keep them safe. But the resources just weren't there or weren't enough. Domestic violence in relationships where mental illness is involved is complicated. It's not as simple as leaving or calling the police. There's fear, shame, and sometimes love that keeps people trapped in dangerous cycles. The laws that protect people from abuse don't always work when mental health is part of the picture. Sometimes, people who need help the most slip through the cracks, and those trying to help, like Zette, can end up hurt. It raises hard questions. How do you help someone who refuses help? How do you protect yourself when your compassion puts you at risk? Zette's kindness wasn't weakness, it was bravery. But bravery can only go so far without the right support. This story is a warning. It's a call for better mental health care, stronger domestic violence support, and understanding the limits of compassion in crisis. Because without those, stories like Zette's won't be the last. How do we teach people to help, and when helping becomes harmful? The truth is, this story didn't come out of nowhere. It built up, quietly and painfully, over time. Zette and Michael's relationship wasn't just complicated. It was chaotic, fragile, and at times, dangerous. Friends saw it. Family saw it. Even strangers could feel something wasn't right. Police had been called before. There was already a moment when Michael had pulled a gun on Zette. That should have been a hard stop, a moment for real action, but nothing changed. Some say Zette kept going back out of love. Others believe it was fear, or a belief that things could still get better. She wasn't perfect, but no one ever is. She carried her own pain, her own demons, and she stayed in something that slowly ate away at her. Well, wasn't just the villain in this story. He was a broken man too, struggling with addiction, untreated trauma, and mental health issues that went unchecked for too long. His breakdown didn't happen overnight. It built up from years of silence, denial, and missed help. Family tried. They begged, they prayed, they warned, but they were told, it's between them. The law couldn't step in unless someone pressed charges or walked away for good. And sadly, that never happened. So we're left with a story that didn't have to end like this. It's not just about Zette or Michael anymore. It's about the people we know right now who might be in something similar. It's about the signs we ignore, the "it's none of my business" moments, the quiet cries from people we love. We can't change this ending, but maybe we can stop the next one. Did the story hit you hard? Take a moment, share this video. Someone might need it, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. We're telling real stories that matter. Do you think family and friends should have stepped in harder? Or was it never their place? Let's talk in the comments.